Alright, hey guys, so welcome back to my another video. So in this video, I'll be reviewing my M2 MacBook Pro that I just bought last week. So after the past 1 week experience with my M2 MacBook Pro, I'll be giving you my review and my suggestions whether to buy it or skip it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. So let's begin. Alright, so moving on to the color on my MacBook Pro. So as you can see, this MacBook Pro that I own is the space gray color. Or if you want, you can get the classic silver color. But mine is the space gray color, by the way, which actually very similar to my iPad 9 generation. Except my iPad 9 has many scratches with white dots everywhere. But yeah, anyway, so moving on to the design. This MacBook Pro has the classic clamshell-like design since the 2016 MacBook Pro. It's similar on the outside, but on the inside is different. So moving on to the port selections, you only get two USB Type-C ports with support USB 4, by the way. And moving on to the right, you only get the 3.5mm headphone jack. So unlike newer MacBook Pro, you won't get the HDMI, SD card, MagSafe, or whatever ports. This one only has two Type-C ports and a headphone jack. That's it. Alright, so next up, let's turn on my MacBook Pro here. Alright, so this is my login screen. Alright, so let's start off from my spec for this MacBook Pro that I got. So as you can see, this MacBook Pro has the M2 chip with 8GB of RAM, which is kinda limited in 2025. And of course, serial number can't be exposed. And of course, it's running the Mac OS Sequoia. Of course, moving on to the display, this MacBook Pro, yep, as you expected, has the Retina display with 13.3 inches with the resolution of 2560 by 1600. And of course, the storage is actually the plus for this MacBook Pro, as it has the 512GB of storage instead of the base model with 256GB of storage. So I know what will you be asking me, why get the 8GB version of the MacBook Pro, and that is because the limitation of this specific model with the spec I want is actually very rare, or should I say there aren't any MacBook Pro with the specs I wanted in my marketplace at least. So as you can see, this is my marketplace. Yeah, as you can see, there aren't actually many options here with at least 16 gigs of RAM. This has the base storage of 256GB only with 8GB of RAM. So yeah, this MacBook Pro I bought it for around 3,000 ringgit. Yes, 3,000 ringgit. So it's around, let me ask Gemini. Alright, so let's just convert it to US dollar. Then I'll be converting to the Chinese RMB. Why is it kind of slow? So around 735 US dollar according to Gemini. So let's convert it to Chinese yuan. So it's around 5,435 Chinese yuan, so which means Chinese RMB. Alright, so moving on to the more detailed specification and features for the M2 MacBook Pro. 2022 according to Apple's website. And for the color options or finish as they call it, you get the classic silver, which is the one I have here on my Intel Core i5 Pro 2024 Thunderbolt model. Yep, it's running on Intel, not Apple SoC. That's why I upgraded to the M2 chip. And of course, the space gray color option, which I have here. And moving on to the chip, of course you get the Apple M2 chip, since this is the Apple M2 MacBook Pro, as the name suggests. And of course, for the specs for the M2 chip, for the M1, it only has 50GB instead of 100, so this is double the memory bandwidth. And for Media Engine, yep, it supports ProRes, unlike M1, which is also a drawback for the M1 MacBook Pro or M1 MacBook Air. And of course, for Apple Intelligence, it still supports it, since this is the Apple's own M2 chip SoC, but it still kind of suck. That's what I said. So moving on to the display, of course, as I say, it has the Retina display with all the specs. But of course, in 2025, 500 nits of brightness is considered very low. But I'm not going to use this MacBook Pro for outdoor use, so it's not a big deal for me. And of course, these are the features for the battery. And of course, it's expected it can last for around a day, since it's using the very efficient Apple's own M chip. And of course, the memory, my one has the 8GB of RAM. But of course, you can top up to either 16 or 24GB of RAM. Alright, so moving on to the storage side. For the base model M2 MacBook Pro, you only get 256GB of SSD. So, yep, it's a bit limited, but if you are good for it, then just buy the base model one. But of course, mine has the 512GB of storage, but you still can top it up to 2TB of storage. So moving on to the ports, as I said, it only has 2 Type-C ports here, which supports USB 4. So that's why I bought the 512GB of storage, is because it's not practical to keep using the external hard disk, since the port is very limited. But of course, you get the headphone jack on the right, which is actually a plus, just like my Intel MacBook Pro here. And of course, other specification. Oh yeah, by the way, for the camera, in 2025 700 resolution FaceTime HD camera is actually a joke. If you go and compare it with the newer M4 MacBook Pro or even the M4 MacBook Air that has the 180 HD camera, which supports center stage. Even my iPad 9 supports center stage too. So yeah, if you just like me, I'm just going to use this MacBook for video conference. So I'm not going to use a very good camera for it. 720 is good enough. So of course, other specifications, I'm not going to cover it here. You can just visit Apple website and just read it yourself. Alright, now let's test out the display by playing a 4K resolution video from YouTube, of course, just like usual.
Need to run Windows on your...
Alright, so enjoy the test. Alright, so next up is the audio test. So for this audio test, I'll be playing some NCS music with 50% of the volume. So enjoy. Alright, so for this part is the audio comparison test within my Intel MacBook Pro, my Lenovo ThinkPad T95s, and of course my Lenovo IdeaPad Slim 3 from 2022. So against this M2 MacBook Pro, and tell me what is your opinion, which one sounds the best and the worst. So enjoy. Alright, so now moving on to the Geekbench side. So let's start off with the SSD speed test by Blackmagic. Let me just turn up the brightness. Alright, so let's go ahead and start this test. Alright, so for the write speed, we got the 2255.1 Mbit per second and 2855.9 for the read speed. Right now, moving on to Feedcough. This is to test out the render of your website. So let's just test it out. 2,390,000. Actually, it's pretty insane already for this MacBook and for this old. Let's test it out again. Even more, we got 2,445,000, which actually quite insane already for this MacBook with this age. So that means let's test out some gaming. Of course, only some light gaming like Roblox, and I'm not going to game on this MacBook anyway. So for the game, we are not going to play much. We are just going to test out some Roblox games with default setting, by the way, and default graphic, which is set to automatic. So for the first one, I'm going to test out my own game. So yeah, click on the link and support my own game. Thanks. You don't need this. Alright, so moving around on my own game, this MacBook handles it very well. Let me just adjust the FOV. Yep, very smooth. Alright, so this is my fountain gallery. As you can see, I'm actually in progress of making a musical fountain here, but my programming skill is too limited. So anyway, this MacBook Pro handles it well. This game is not very heavy though if you set the graphic to low. So this MacBook Pro handles it not bad. So now we are in Adobe Me. So let's test this MacBook, see if it can handle it well. Alright, so now we are driving around the neighborhood in Adobe Me, and this Mac still handles it well. Of course, by default setting, default graphic will set to automatic. Let's go to the main map. Looks empty though. But yeah, this still Mac still handle it well.
Yo, what is happening in the chat, guys? What is happening in the chat? Yes, it's bigger than mine. What?
BBL Drizzy. Oh my gosh, I have a BBL, guys. How could you see it? So you know it.
Alright, so in conclusion, should you buy this M2 MacBook Pro in 2025? Well, to be honest, if you really need the touch bar, you don't care about the port selections, you don't care about the HD camera with 720p of resolution, 13-inch with 500 nits of brightness with only 60Hz of display, even though it's a MacBook Pro, but it doesn't support 120Hz. Then I would say yes, go for it. The M2 chip is still very usable in 2025. It's still a very viable option to buy. Alright, so just a little fun fact. This M2 MacBook Pro 13-inch 2022 is the last MacBook that has the touch bar feature. So after that, Apple has discontinued the touch bar. For me, it's very disappointing is because I really rely on the touch bar and I really love the touch bar. Of course, not just for flexing, but usability. Example though, if you open GarageBand, there are many options here you can choose. Either level, treble, or whatever. You can just choose from your touch bar instead of navigating through your main display. And of course, after that, Apple has discontinued the touch bar on their new MacBook Pro, so I hope Apple can implement an additional feature on the top of their function keys, because there are still quite many spaces between the keyboard and the screen gap. So I hope Apple can do that. And that's it for my video, and I hope you enjoy. And if you do, please like, subscribe, and share. And thanks for watching, and I will catch you up in the next one. So let me just shut up my MacBook and end this video. Is it ended, by the way? Oh right, never mind, it's not. Don't save. Alright, thank you for watching. Cut. Alright, let's just discuss about the touch bar. This one is my Intel Core i5 MacBook Pro, and this is my M2 MacBook Pro. And actually, the fun fact is, if you want to identify the model between the Intel and the M series MacBook, just look at their keyboard. The Intel keyboard, look at the FN key, the left FN key. The Intel only has the FN key, but on the M series one, you get this kind of Earth logo, I guess. Of course, alongside with the FN key on the top. So yeah, this is the fun fact on how to identify between each model. But of course, this keyboard is actually for my Intel and not for the M series MacBook. But I just prefer to use it on my M series MacBook because I'm actually using this more than my Intel MacBook. And another thing is, I really love the touch bar though. It's very controversial since 2016, but personally, I really love it. It's also a good tool to flex your MacBook since it has the secondary display. Yep, and that's it. I'm planning to use it for other purpose, which is actually that works with Intel MacBooks and not the Apple Silicon one. And yeah, this MacBook Pro from 2020 with the 4 Thunderbolt Intel Core 10 Gen Core i5 or the Core i7 supports the latest Mac OS 26 Tahoe, the liquid class Mac OS, but that will be the last support for the Intel Macs. And after that, Apple will only move on to the M series MacBook, starting from the M1. So keep in mind on that. If you want to buy the Intel MacBook, you can go ahead. But for general use, I think it's better off with the M MacBooks and the Intel one. Alright, so that's it for the video. Thanks for watching and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
I'm so
Wait,
sorry.
what he mean is
Look in the chat. Look in the chat. Toilet paper, please.
BBL?
What?
I know.
What? Dr.
My
Sun
doctor's
is
name is
BBL.
BBL, man. My doctor's name is BBL Drizzy.
Is it the bacon? Bacon hair.
Just fuck it.
Bacon hair. Bacon hair. Bacon hair. Bacon hair. Bacon hair. Options? What is options?
Let me get up there.
No. Bacon hair. My head is at 1. Hey, where is... Yo, add me. Yo, add me. My head's about to die.
Alright.
I got you. Alright, I got you.
You're so cute.
I added.
Is that a woman or a... Okay, guys, my head is about to die, but I'll do one more amazing performance because you guys loved it. Because you guys loved it.
Hey bro, let me get up there.
Can you hear this, guys?
Let me get up there. Oh, so some of y'all don't got that D.
No, I don't even number. Help. My head just died.
I added you. Let me get up there. Guys, I can't sing that with the smile.
Alright, so that's it for this video of reviewing this M2 MacBook Pro. It handles Roblox very well. Of course, any kind of hardware can handle Roblox very well. But yeah, it's still very impressive, and the battery was already charged from 100%. Now it only dropped to 99% only after this a few minutes of use. Not a few minutes, I think at least an hour, due to how many mistakes I've made by using voiceover. Whatever. But so I mean, this MacBook is really impressed me. Battery life, the M2 chip, of course the iconic touch bar is actually kind of ways that Apple remove it, because I personally really love touch bar. Not because of flexing, but of course when you're using GarageBand, you need the touch bar to, you know, control some keys here. Like you can just use your touch bar to play some keys instead of clicking on your screen with the touchpad or the mouse, because I don't have a MIDI keyboard. So yep, that's just my opinion. I love the touch bar. And by the way, here is my own music. It's still incomplete though, but I hope you enjoy. Alright, so